I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I can hear the noise outside. They just decided it's a sawing day, it's a construction day, so I don't know. I thought I could either put this off or I could just YOLO film now, so I just thought why not, and just have horrible audio for this lecture. It feels kind of weird because number one, I don't have the book with me, so the 48 Laws of Power, I left it in California, but I have my journal of the notes that I did for law number 44, which I already filmed. I already did law 44, I think 45, 46. I think I did all of them, to be honest, or 45 and 46. I remember I did like 3, and I tried to edit them, I tried to render them, and I tried to post them, and they would not allow, it was forbidden. I wasn't able to render them. And in hindsight, I know exactly why. It was when I was still on administrative leave of absence. And for this exact reason, law number 44 is disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. And in my first hand lecture, the raw, the uncut, I was so angry. And I was so very, very angry, and I was very, very upset. And had God allowed me to post that video, things may not have turned out the way that they did for me, to my benefit. Meaning it was it was an incredible layer of protection when I wasn't in a good place. So it's very, very interesting because now, emotionally healed, for the most part, from all that I endured with work, it feels like a twofold coin. Number one, it feels very calm, more calm, peaceful, tranquilo, as the Portuguese say, being on this side. But on the other end, it feels, you can see the maturity. When I think back where I was, 6 months ago, 6-7 months ago, when actually the last video that I posted, I think on YouTube, it shows it was 8 months ago. So the person I was 8 months ago amidst that complete hell of uncertainty and the battle that I was undergoing, the spiritual warfare with work. So I love that I'm in this position now where it's just, I get to look back and reflect, and I have a far different lens from that very, very rage-filled Tarek of earlier this year. So here we go. It feels weird, man. It feels weird doing this lecture, not just for the second time, but to go back into doing these teachings, because I closed that book it's been 8 months since disseminating the Robert Greene books, but I want to complete the university. It's actually when I think about and I can share this with you guys, the bigger picture of why it's so important to do Route Life University. I shared it within the semester intro, The Courage to Pursue. The reason that these are so important is all of this is what's not taught in school. So when you go to school, it's indoctrination. You're going to be taught how to be a good student, how to do as you're told, how to be quiet, how to take directions, and that is going to be your path. You're not going to be taught exactly what you need to arm yourself for the second you get a job. The second you get a job, you're going to be amidst ego, insecurity, manipulation, harassment, bullying, vindictiveness, people utilizing positions of authority who are incompetent people. I can't even classify them as leaders. They're very incompetent people in positions of authority, in positions of leadership. And the result, the consequence is inevitable abuse of that position of authority. Sorry for the noise. So you're going to be tasked with how to combat these idiots. And unless you have these tools, I said this in the semester intro, you're going to be a victim of abuse, of manipulation, of being emotionally and psychologically abused. And so that's why it's very, very important to have these lectures. That's why I'm doing it, because none of all of the Robert Greene books is taught in school. You're not going to be taught anything about power and how that plays within the rat life. You're not going to be taught about psychology and human nature. You can take a psychology class, but until you're subject to what people are doing and why they're doing it, and their ulterior motives and the masks that they're wearing, you're going to be that puppeteer. You're the puppet. They're the puppeteer. Yes. So Does any of that make sense? That's why we're doing this. And I could share with you the greater vision. This is just me right now teaching these lectures, Tarkalks, right? For power, then we're going to do the 33 strategies of war, which is actually what's holding this camera up. Then we're going to do human nature, the 18 laws of human nature. Then we're going to do seduction, the 24 techniques for seduction, and then mastery. That is the totality of all the Robert Greene books. And I love them so much, not just for their the vast richness of knowledge in it, but also the history that he intertwines in it. It's actually my favorite things to read. I love history, and I love seeing how it's all woven together, and how we can learn from the past, and how you see the past recur, and how things that have that were prevalent thousands of years ago still exist today. It's just a different context. It's just a different technology. It's just a different theater. It's the same lesson. It's the same power play. It's the same law. It's the same manipulation. It's the same tactic. And so unless you're armed with this, you're going to get wrecked. And these are the things that you wish you're taught in school. You know what I'm saying? It's just like when they say, why don't they teach us about taxes and stuff like that in school? Because they want you to be a slave. You know what I'm saying? They don't want you to be free. They don't want you thinking for yourself. They don't want you to think critically. That's actually one of the things that I attribute my degree that yielded the greatest fruit, because I got a degree in classical civilization, the study of ancient Greece, ancient Rome. I didn't use it whatsoever in terms of becoming a professor or, you know, working in the field of archaeology, but it made me a very good writer. It made me a better speaker. But most importantly, it made me a critical thinker, because we have 1% of surviving material from the ancient world. As in, you're trying to base an entire society on 1%. It's the equivalent of you walking into this apartment and basing, you know, you're from the year 2200, and you're coming in here, you see that couch, and then you're basing the entire world of what was life like back in, you know, 2025 based on that one item. It's the equivalent when you find this piece of pottery, or this piece of, you know, this coin, or this, you know, this written work by Cicero or Horace or whatever, and then you have to use critical thinking to say, well, wait a second, this might be bias, this might be propaganda. There's a book called Ars Amatoria. Who's the author? Ovid, the author. It talks about how the best person you can date is a poet. The motherfucker is a poet. Do you know what I'm saying? So having, you know, critical thinking skills, you're just like, wait a second, I think this is, you know, for your own best interest. You're not taught that in school. You're not given space to think, right? Because if you had that, you wouldn't be, you heard my elbow, you wouldn't have stress, you wouldn't have anxiety, you wouldn't have worry, you wouldn't have concern. And when you go into the real world after graduating, after the indoctrination of the rat life, and you start thinking for yourself, you start to see all of the inconsistencies. You start to see all of the flaws in the structure. You start to see all of the scams. You start to see all of the things that don't quite add up. And you're just like, wait a second, why would I do this? Well, that's an interesting policy. It's weird that we're doing, I saw a video just yesterday to give you guys a little bit of nostalgia. This guy this was during COVID times. He was going to pay, and there was that stupid fucking screen protector, and he was trying to hand the girl her card, and then she put her hand around it and said, you can hand it to me right here. And then he walks around the stupid fucking barrier, and he says, oh, I could do it here and talk to you. And then she's like, yeah. And he was like, well, that makes this kind of ridiculous, doesn't it? She was like, yeah, kind of. When I worked in my school district in Newport Mesa, they had that same stupid shit. They had that clear, dumb garbage to hand paperwork back. They literally had to go around or go under or talk through it. I'm just like, as if air can't fucking travel around. It's like, oh no, where is it? But if you don't use your brain, if you don't think, you'll accept all of the bullshit as is. And this is the worst thing. You'll wait for somebody else to tell you that it's safe. And I remember that was my biggest frustration during those times, not to go on this, you know, painful memory of this nostalgia. But after the 2-week flatten the curve garbage where I knew this was all bullshit, I said, who the fuck are you waiting for to tell you it's okay to breathe air? And they would wait for this political official, this celebrity tweet, this whatever the fuck. And I was just like, when the fuck are you going to start thinking for yourself? It's crazy. But it's that slave mind sheep mentality. And if you don't think critically, you will be enslaved. There's a good quote. If you do not have a plan, You will be used by someone else as a part of their plan. And you have to think of yourself as that. If you don't think for yourself, you will be a cattle on the farm to be used for your milk. They're gonna milk you until those udders are dry. They're gonna get the cheese, they're gonna get the milk. If you're a sheep now, they're gonna get the wool. And then when it suits them, when it's in their best interest, when they're like, there's nothing else they can provide for me, they're gonna take your meat. It's very important. So, law number 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. I think this is the biggest pinpoint, the biggest crux of what it means to be a courtier. The mirror effect. This applies to everything. So this applies to seduction, and that's what you're doing in the workplace. You're seducing all of these idiots to think they're hilarious, to think that they're incredibly smart, you're making people feel so comfortable in their own skin by mirroring them, so hilarious, so confident. And I have perfected this over the course of my entire working career, like thinking back to like my first job. And I remember during my time as an undergraduate, I perfected this when I worked at Target. Anytime a supervisor, somebody would ask me, hey, how are you? Fantastic. I'm amazing. You're putting on a mask. And you seduce them into, wow, this person is really for the cause. God, they love, and that actually ties in under the law, play the fool to fool the fool. Because while other people have an agenda for you, like I said, if you don't have a plan, you'll be used by someone else as part of their plan. They're thinking about, wow, we can have this person as a long-term, not just a seasonal employee. Maybe, oh man, we can dangle you're gonna be a supervisor, you're gonna be a manager carrot in front of them. And unless you have that means to an end exit strategy, unless you're standing guard at the doorway of your mind, you're going to be used by someone else as a part of their plan. How long can I fucking keep them on the farm for their milk, for their time, for their energy? How long can I use them before they escape, right? But the courtier effect specifically, especially when you're trying to, rub shoulders with the higher ups, it's the easiest way. You learn this in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's not you talking about yourself. It's not you, sharing your own goals, your own dreams, your own passions, your own ambitions. They don't give a shit about that. What do they care about? Their own interests, what serves them, what makes their life easier. What makes them feel significance, filling their significance cup. How do you do that? By laughing at their stupid fucking jokes, by always submitting to their superior knowledge, by always playing that, very, very cunning, quiet, composed, kind of aloof fool courtier. If you've ever seen the show Game of Thrones, they exacerbate this. Playing the mirror effect. But it has a two-sided coin, and this is the two-sided coin. There gets a point in your courtier journey where it is so exhausting, sorry for the noise, where you can no longer wear a mask. You get to a point where you can no longer pretend to be somebody that you're not, where these people that you're surrounded by, their stupidity and their ignorance and their closed-mindedness and their arrogance and everything gets so under your skin that you can't even fake, and I can say this from personal experience, you can't even fake a smile anymore. You can no longer laugh at their 1,000th retarded joke, and you're just then the house of illusion that you've propped up, that beautiful mirror where they look at you and they see their amazing self sort of dissolves, and the truth comes out. Now here's the other side of the coin. When the truth comes out, and you're aligning with God, with your highest self, with integrity, with truth, now you act as a higher mirror. What do I mean by a higher mirror? The highest mirror that you can possibly be, in my opinion, in my observation of life up until this point in time, is what it means to be Christ-like. Think of yourself when you were a child, right? You were that ball of sunshine, okay? You were pure light, pure love, pure energy, and then one mask came on, and think of it putting a mask on, one contour, one dim of your light, right? One tiny little shrinking of yourself. Think of it as you putting on a saran wrap on that light bulb, right? It's still very potent, right? One layer of saran wrap, you can still see that beautiful light, But imagine now 1,000 iterations of that. You've seen, you've bought in one, a roll of saran wrap and it has like 1,000, rolls, like, and then it's that whole thing. And then you try to look through it, right? It's no longer transparent, okay? In my opinion, what it means to be Christ-like, which is the ultimate mirror, that ultimate frequency, vibration that you could put off, the ultimate seed of belief that you can plant within others of the potential of who they can be. I don't think of it from a religious, fuck the noise, a religious standpoint of, oh, I'm this, exalted Christian, I'm this exalted Catholic. No, I think of it as I have the utmost exalted integrity, compassion, patience, generosity, unconditional love. What does that mean? I'm willing to give the most unconditional love to mine enemies. Do you know what I'm saying? That is like an exalted level that it's, in my opinion, that's the beauty of the pursuit of life. That's what we should all be striving for, is the pursuit of being that ultimate version of ourselves. You know what I'm saying? The one who could kiss the toes of their most, despised enemy, right? The one who is going to betray you and send you to the dungeons. Does that make sense? So that's the other side of the coin. When you finally get to that brink where you can no longer breathe, where you're suffocating by the 1,000th roll of that fucking saran wrap on your truth, on integrity, on being a basic fucking human being, and you're ripping all of these layers of all this bullshit off. Now you're an actual mirror. And so when they look at themselves, when they look at you, now they see themselves for who they actually are. Not the effect that you had, not that seducing effect that you had on them to fill their significance cup, to laugh at their stupid jokes, to make them feel so confident, so comfortable in their own skin. They feel so hilarious. They feel so smart. They feel so brilliant within their, original ideas. No. Now you're that beautiful, pure, integrable, I don't know this word, mirror, exposing that serpent or that snake or that dumb fuck for who they actually are. Then what's the consequence of that? They're going to hate you. Because in their incredibly stupid mind, when they're looking at that, they think those are all the qualities and virtues that reside in you. And that's the level of stupidity that you're dealing with. They're so stupid and so arrogant and so full of themselves and so narcissistic that they actually think that's what's being mirrored back to them isn't their horrid looking soul and character. It's you. And what's hilarious is I remember in the report that I got back from the attorneys within my work investigation, because I acted as a Christ-like mirror of truth and integrity, they actually deemed it as, as if I had not malicious intent, retaliation, which is, it's not allowed in a school district if you have retaliatory intent. And so it was like, this was Tarek's, efforts and motive of retaliation from these idiots by simply operating in light, in truth, in love, in honesty. And I love that I could share with you like the actual reality of the experience. But this is the beauty of it. You ready? This is the beauty of it. I'm going to give you the secrets. I'm going to give you the gold. Okay. When you operate in love and light, when you operate in unconditional love, it doesn't matter what the enemy does. It doesn't matter if they put you in a dungeon, if they send you to jail. It doesn't matter if you're in the rat life courts here and you're going through these investigations, this work, and get paid on paid administrative leave of absence, and then you get the choice of resignation in lieu of termination, or we're going to draft paperwork to fire you. I can vouch for this, my hand, my word to God. Anything that anybody does that you think seemingly this circumstance is negative, this is destructive, this is for my pitfall, for my demise, I can promise you it is only used for your good, for your benefit, for your elevation, for your highest nature's design, your greatest potential. To where, now in hindsight, now looking back, now on the other side, all you can do is thank them. Because if it weren't for them, you wouldn't be living the life that you are now. Do you understand? If it weren't for them, you wouldn't be free. They were the reason for the liberation. They were the catalyst for you to be liberated. Do you understand? To live this life now of freedom, You were able to get out of that snare. What they thought was going to be your undoing, your demise, was in the book Meditations. Everything is because we as humans are adaptable. Sorry for the noise. Any obstacle we can overcome. Therefore, the obstacle is the way, right? What they thought was going to be your, tombstone, that was the ladder. That was the ladder out. You know what I'm saying? So, very, very important. So I want to give you that seed. I want to plant that right now. Did you see the bruise? Getting wrecked in jiu-jitsu. I want to plant that seed right now for you guys. When you act as an actual mirror, not the courtier, not this law, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Well, actually, it's both. So that's exactly it. You disarm them when you play the courtier mirror. You infuriate them, and you'll actually have these people hate you when you're mirroring back to them their actual stupidity. I remember one of the tasks I was assigned in my, horrific, serpent that I was subject to was I had to document everything that I ever did for the day. Can you imagine that level of micromanagement? It was something that only I was assigned to nobody else. And so I was like, okay, we're going to play this game. Let me show you what an idiot you are. And I literally would say, okay, I handed this person 7 manila folders. I was literally that ridiculous and over the top in my, required reports to this idiot because of that exacerbating this quote. You show them what an idiot they are by over obedience, which is actually described in this. Shielding your own strategy with the mirror, you lay invisible traps or push your opponents into the trap they plan for you. And I put in parentheses over obedience, meaning you really expose stupidity when you do exactly what they say. It's like when you were a child and someone mirrored back to you your own words in like a sort of mocking tone. It's that exact same thing. I remember I was in an interview with the Serpent and my HR director, and there were one of the criticisms that I was given was that I didn't talk much, and so it was a red flag of my lack of communication. And there was something that I didn't know how to do, and I said, I don't know how to do this. And then I was like, what other answer did you want me to say? And then my HR director equally looked at this person. I was like, what a fucking idiot that they are. But it all goes to that point, okay? That is the power of the mirror effect. You will show a person for how stupid that they are just by telling them back their exact instructions, because they have this tunnel vision, blinded prerogative of overcompensation for their incompetence within their position of authority and leadership. So all they can do is bulldoze. All they can do is dominate. All they can do is manipulate. All they can do is talk very, very quickly so that you don't have space to think or to counter or to see all of the inconsistencies or to see all of the stupidity within their plan. And so you'll notice that in the rat life, in the courtier game. People who are very incompetent leaders, they thrive on manipulation. They thrive on talking fast. They thrive on dominating a situation. We need to get this done now. No, we could get this done in 60 seconds. We can have a discussion for 60 seconds. It's not going to affect the deadline whatsoever. The fastest way to get where we want to go is by going slow, is going with the flow, is the path of least resistance. But they don't want that. Why? Because then everybody will see the redundancy of their place within the organization, within the company, and they don't want that. They want to keep that illusion that not only are they smart, intelligent, bring value, but are also needed and a necessity. Because, oh man, without them we wouldn't have this leadership, we wouldn't have this person leading the charge, the victory, right? When in reality they're just fucking winging it. They have no idea what they're doing. They're the most incompetent leader. But they're able to manipulate everybody, and they're able to put themselves in very, very high leveraged positions to where if you actually counter them, if you actually act as that Christ-like mirror, they can threaten you with your employment. I stand a martyr of that, meaning I was the only one in the entire organization of my former job that spoke up amidst the abuse, amidst the atrocities, amidst the injustice, amidst the psychological abuse, amidst the bullying, amidst the disrespect. I was the only one that stood at that vanguard, where people would actually come up to me after the fact thanking me for having the courage to have a voice. But this is the reason why. People with these really, really high positions of authority, they could do the same thing to me as any of these other people who are so desperate for that paycheck that they need to pay their mortgage, that they need the security of that job. You know, I didn't have that cowardice. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember being in an interview with one of my directors who was a complete fucking idiot. He was a complete cuck, super coward. And he actually had that empty threat of, you know, reporting me to the highest up, right? The superintendent. And I said, bring him in. I said, I have no qualms with losing my job on the basis of integrity. And then that fucking coward and I said, I'll go get him. And then you when you stand up to bullies, they fucking cower so immediately. And so it's very, very important you understand that is the biggest threat that you will have with being an actual mirror of character and integrity within your rat life, within the workplace. You'll have these people use fear of firing you, the threat and the intimidation, which is also illegal, but that's how they employ it. They'll use intimidation of your employment or the future removal, omission, shattering, firing, ending of your employment to coerce you, to manipulate you, to get you to do what they want you to do. Where my serpent, dude, she wanted me to basically beg and plead to use my fucking vacation days, to use my sick days. And then I would not give them that satisfaction. It was just like, no. But they'll use that position of authority to literally abuse the fuck out of their people. Sorry for the noise. But the point is this: not a hair on your head, I swear to God, will be touched by any of the malevolence, any of the tyranny. If you stand in light, if you stand in love, if you wish no animosity on these people, you give them unconditional love. You thank them. If it weren't, I was willing to be a rat life, servant in servitude, a slave for the next 5 years. I had that resolve. I was willing to give up my destiny, forfeit all of my ambition, potential, everything, just to climb a little higher within the rat life, to create a higher margin, to get a little bit more income, to pay off outstanding debts, to be a greater provider than I formerly was. I was willing to give it all up and be an unhappy, depressed, miserable slave for the sake of others, right? For not just what I could, take care of in terms of my own debts, but what I could provide for my family, my future family, my woman, my everything, right? I was willing to give all of that up. God said, I don't think so. So it's very, very important that when you align with love, when you align with unconditional love, nothing will happen to you negatively. Your new life is going to cost you your old life. So while you think everything is going, is collapsing in real time, and oh my gosh, I'm getting threatened with losing my job, I'm getting, having to go into these investigations, having to deal with these attorneys, having all of this, this legality battle, all of it is setting you up to literally walk into your dream life, right? Where right now I'm literally in Brazil filming this lecture because of the actions of these snakes, of these serpents, of all of this former past malevolence. If it weren't for them, if it weren't for God literally using them, using these puppets for my benefit, and me having the emotional control and stoicism to weather that storm and to not speak, to not retaliate, to not say more than I knew at any given time, but just to be quiet, just to be still. That's the most recurring line, other than, don't be afraid, is be still, be still, be still. It's in that stillness where you're tapped into your highest self, where you have that cheat code. You're playing the game on God mode, because that's who your coach is, that's who your quarterback is. That's the one who's designing all the plays, giving you the whispers and the downloads of what next step to take until your victory is, proclaimed. So I ended my notes with this little thing, and it's a really good quote from the 44th law of power, which is disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. It is polished into, so the image is the shield of Perseus. It is polished into a reflecting mirror. Medusa cannot see you, only her own hideousness reflected back at her. And I put snake, serpent, and then I used other nasty words. Behind such a mirror, you can deceive, mock, and infuriate. With one blow, you sever Medusa's unsuspecting head. And I put checkmate, bitch. And that's exactly, and these were my notes from when I originally did this law. I don't have any animosity now, but it was a checkmate because of all the things that I did and all what I endured and all of the abuse and all of the harassment and all of the bullying and all of the psychological damage and all of the fight or flight and the cortisol drip for months and months and months and all the stupidity that I was subject to for a year and a half, and that living hell. If it weren't for me exalting this quote of being that mirror, both the courtier mirror, I wouldn't have survived that long, and both the Christ-like mirror, I wouldn't be in the position that I am now. Because if I didn't have the courage to speak the truth, to stand up to these bullies, to call out the disrespect when I saw it, in a room full of everybody who chose to stand idle, if it wasn't for me harboring that courage, knowing that I was safe under God, choosing integrity and character over cowardice, over intimidation, I would not be living the life that I am today. So it's very important that you understand that. Nothing will ever happen to you for your detriment, for your demise, for your all of this. Seemingly, the circumstances, it could. Yes, you could lose your job by speaking the truth. Yes, you could be sent to jail. Yes, you could have these legality problems. When you operate in unconditional love, but nothing, not a fucking hair on your head will be touched. It will only ever be used for your good, for your benefit. So we learn all of this from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. We learn this from the 48 Laws of Power. You learn this from what it means to walk the narrow path. When you operate with that unconditional love, that connection to God, it's not I believe in God, no, I know Him on this path. I know I'm protected. I know I'm safe. There's a disarming, literally, so it says disarm and infuriate with infuriate. There's a disarming effect to the enemy, as in, it's the quote from the Bible that says, they're going to use all these weapons. No weapon on you will prosper. And it's completely true. What these demonically possessed simpletons will use, thinking that they've got you, think that they got this checkmate strategy. They have 10 people that they have, coming after you. You could 1 versus fucking 10 them, because if He stands with us, who could stand against us? It's that exact same truth. So I want to reiterate that point so much, just to hopefully give somebody the courage to speak the truth, the courage to operate within unconditional love, knowing that you don't lose anything or anyone when you align with truth. You don't lose a job. You could lose your job, your employment within an organization, but you didn't lose anything. It's setting you up by having your old life collapse. The cost of your new life will be your old life by definition, right? You're not losing anything. You're only gaining everything. It's the same thing in relationships. If you speak your truth to someone, if you have nothing but unconditional love for somebody, and it's met with rejection, you didn't lose them. You didn't lose them. You don't lose anyone by speaking who you are, saying who you are and how you feel, ever. Because why would you want to be with a job who was going to offer you nothing but malevolence and tyranny and deception and manipulation and abuse? You wouldn't. If you knew that, you would be provided for. You would be like, okay, I don't need this. I don't need you. You need me. Same thing in the relationship. Why would you want to be with somebody who didn't want to be with you? Why would you want to be with someone who didn't see your value, right? Apply that to dating, apply that to work. Why would I want to continue to give my time, my effort, my energy, my unconditional love, my oysters to swine? That's a tie to one of the parables, right? Why would I want to continue to give my heart to people who didn't see the value of it? I'm going to have dignity, I'm going to have self-respect, I'm going to walk away and not wish any ill will upon them. Because I know where I'm going, where God is leading me, where I'm being guided, right? That promised land of, overflow, of milk and honey, and just fulfillment and feeling light, right? Because what these snakes wish, what they wish is that they could be themselves. They wish they could speak their truth. They wish they could show the world who that actual person is, but they're so fucking scared. So everything that they do is just projection of that fear, of that cowardice, of that insecurity. And the sad reality of it is they will never be actually loved for who they are, because nobody fucking knows who they are. All anybody knows is who they've always pretended to be. And the truth is, everybody can see beyond that fucking mask. Everybody can see the fake laughter. They can hear the fake laughter. They can see how nobody actually likes you. And everybody can see it. It becomes pity at some point. They can see the scared little boy. They can see the scared little girl. They can see all of the projection as a front, as a mask for their deepest fucking fears and insecurities. Just a child saying, please validate my existence. Please tell me that I matter, you know? So that's the power of the mirror effect. That is law number 44 of the 48 laws of power. Did you enjoy the lecture? Did we do a decent job? I had a bunch of other notes here. Let me see if I have any final quotes. The doctor should be opaque to his patients, and like a mirror should show them nothing but what is shown to them. That's the equivalent of, if you've ever read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, it's logotherapy. And that's what I do when I operate as the ultimate mirror for anybody who I've had the opportunity to heal. Is I'll have a conversation with someone. People have asked me, traveling, people that I've met, they say, what does it mean, a healer? What do you do? And I say, I just have a conversation with people. And they're like, what do you mean? Are you like a therapist, like a counselor? I'm like, no, I'm a healer. And they don't like to hear that answer. And they're like, well, how do you heal people? And the simplest way that I've ever, been able to articulate it is, what I do is I walk people home. I help walk you home. It's quite beautiful. And I can give you a perfect example. I met a woman in, what city were we in? Was it Spain? Was it Sevilla? In Sevilla. Her name was Sonia. And suicidal, at the edge and beyond, ready to, contemplating taking her own life. And I met her exactly where she was. She gave me the gift of two things. She gave me 1,000% presence. 1,000% presence. She was hanging on to my every single word. And she gave me, and I don't want to take full credit for it, but she gave me full vulnerability and honesty. And so that is also one of my greatest gifts, is the ability to create an environment where people feel safe to let go. So that's very, very important in the alchemy of the whole process. So we spent, God, it must have been like 6 to 8 hours just talking. And it exacerbates this quote. The doctor should be opaque to his patients, and like a mirror should show them nothing but what is shown to them. As in, all I had in the way that I heal people and reach people, and not in meet them where they are, but plant seeds of belief of who they could be, right? Of this person who's, this beacon of hope and light for someone else going through what they're going through, or have experienced what they've experienced up until this point, to drive them to the point where they would want to end the video game, where they could be that hero for somebody else. There's a good quote, everything that you've been through, all the trauma, all the atrocity, all the abuse, your truth one day will be somebody else's survival guide. And unless you have that perspective of your story literally being the fucking anchor that helps somebody else keep going, to help somebody else to hang on for one more day, you'll never realize what a hero you actually are, because that is a life that you saved, right? And when you think about it from a greater scale, a bigger picture, if more people heard your story, if you were vocal about it on a social media platform or something, then you could be that beacon of hope and that light for countless other people. So for you not to ascend to that position of a leadership, I was going to say authority, of leadership, of, you could say, ministry, of just transparency, that's you doing a pretty big injustice to other people, because you could reach all of these other hearts. You could guide all of these souls to this light, but you're letting cowardice and fear stand. I'm not saying you have to, you're not obligated to, you don't have the responsibility to, but you have the opportunity to. You know what I'm saying? You have the opportunity to be that beacon of hope, that light, that mirror for others, that farmer of planting trees under whose shade you will never sit. You have the opportunity to do that to countless people that you could have no idea how many lives you can impact for the positive. But that's basically exactly how I have always healed people and reached people, is I'll meet them where they are, and I'll be completely open, transparent. I'll create an environment where they feel so safe to let go. And the way that I do that is they know immediately from talking with me that they're not being met with any condemnation, judgment, or criticism. So it's just discussion in the quest for truth. And all I can go off of is what they share with me. You know what I'm saying? So the way that I heal people is in direct correlation to their honesty and to their vulnerability. And that's where you can really make for life-changing transformations. And this person still watching my stories, we're 4 months later now, so it's like, it's awesome. It's so awesome seeing people, not lose that light, to not have that light go out. And it's really cool that you could be the person that when those lights are just, that fire is just a fucking ember, and that ember is about to go out, you could just come in and breathe in all of this oxygen and fucking ignite it. You know what I'm saying? You could be that oxygen blower. I guess when you blow, you're blowing carbon dioxide, right? Not oxygen. I don't know. You could be that person, to get somebody kickstarted, to light somebody's fire when their fire is about to go out, to be that light, right? That sunshine. Maybe that's better. Your sunshine, you got a magnifying glass, and then it ignites it. Okay, we're moving on. You understand the idea. There's another quote. And even if they ignore you, you will have, actually exacerbates what I just discussed. So I'll finish the quote. And even if they ignore you, you will have planted a seed in their unconscious that will eventually take roots. It exacerbates the quote, life is about planting trees under whose shade you will never sit. Okay? Anytime that I've done this with someone, they have never met me where I am. What do I mean? I'll meet a guy who is trying to, make a decision about something that he's supposed to do with his relationship, about this girl who's like holding other guys' hands, and I'm like, okay, you need to not talk to them, let them go, break up, off social media, blocked, done, you don't text them evermore, you move on, right? That's the future version of themselves that they're not ready for. And I remember in my younger development, I'd be so upset. I would just be like, how can you not see it? How can you not see exactly what you should be doing? Why do you need to learn the hard way? Why do you need to learn the hardest way? I'm trying to save you from that pain of you pleading, of you chasing, of you pedestaling, of you doing all this bullshit, of you disrespecting yourself, when you should just walk away right now. And you could walk away right now, right? That's not what you're doing when you're having these discussions with someone, when you're healing somebody. No, what you're doing is you're putting off the vibration, the frequency. You're being that Christ-like mirror, the ultimate mirror of who they could be. They're not there yet. You're planting that seed of potential, that seed of belief. And when they water it in their own time, and that's why I said my favorite thing about God is he doesn't walk ahead of you. He meets you where you are. And he waits very, very patiently. So you're planting these seed with people, and then your act of unconditional love is not running ahead of them, but it's just waiting for them to learn how they need to learn. Some people, myself included, need to learn the hard way. I gotta get decimate. I gotta touch the stove to know that it's hot. You could tell me, no problem. I still gotta touch it. It's the same thing with people. People need to, chase and chase and chase and do every manipulation, every effort to know that they tried their absolute best. And people, they don't realize, the amount of disrespect that they implored on themselves, or how this person wasn't who they thought they were when they actually are emotionally detached, when they're actually outside of the interaction. But while you're in it, you're so buried in the trees that you can't see the forest. And so it's very, very easy for me to help people and aid people and heal people because I have that objective lens. I'm not emotionally enamored within their scenario. And so I can see the water very clearly and I can see the disrespect, and I can see the, desperation, and I can see all of the fear, and I can see all of the desperately trying to hold on to something. I can see all of the lack. I can see all of the, I can see all of that very, very clearly. I can see what they can't. And it's from that exact quote. And even if they ignore you, which they will, but now you know to not run ahead of them, to not say good riddance, but to wait, to give them the same grace, the same act of unconditional love as God would give to you. It's very nice, isn't it? Okay. Next quote, last one. A metaphor is a kind of mirror to the concrete and real, which it often expresses more clearly and deeply than a literal description does. When you are dealing with the intractable willpower of other people, direct communication often only heightens their resistance. It's very true. It's leading people to the truth, leading them there and allowing them to see the truth for themselves. You can't tell people the truth. All you can do is guide them to the discovery where they discover it for themselves. So I saw this in my jiu-jitsu class 3 days ago, Wednesday, where the teacher wouldn't tell them what the answer was. He would ask a very, very, guided question of where, the answer maybe was obvious. I don't speak Portuguese, so I don't know. But to where they would come to the answer themselves, the student would. That's how you make someone learn. It's not by telling them this is what it is. It's asking them this question. Where does this lead to? And then they'll find the answer for themselves. Okay? That's how you guide people. That's how you're that lantern for the other people. You guide them to truth. You're walking them home. You're not telling them that's where home is, do this, go here, go there, go there. No. You're walking with them. You're not walking ahead of them. You're meeting them where they are in their development. You're meeting them where they are within their ego. You're meeting them where they are within their insecurities. You're meeting them where they are from their history of trauma, of neglect, of abuse, of conditional love. You're meeting them where they are. You're not walking ahead of them. Does that make sense? Do you understand? Okay. And I put, as Christ himself understood, talking in parables is often the best way to teach a lesson, for it allows people to realize the truth on their own. And I put, I love this, and I put my testimony. God has done this for me time and time again with me, and his gift of infinite patience, grace, and love. And that, my friends, that's the end. So that is law number 44, disarm and infuriate with the mere effect. I promise it is very, very effective. It's effective if you're playing the courtier of the rat life game, and it's very effective for you living out your highest potential in your greatest design. But I warn thee, when you act as a mirror of love, of unconditional love, when you act, that's what it is. When you are that ultimate mirror of you're breathing now as yourself. You're operating with authenticity, with character, with integrity. When you've removed the 1,000 masks, the 1,000 layers of saran wrap, when you stop contouring your edges, when you stop dimming your shine, you're going to make a lot of people hate you. And this is the reason why. When you no longer dim your intellect, you're going to make other people not feel as smart as you once did. When you were acting as a fool, an oblivious, unaware, simple-minded individual. When you operate with your natural light, you're going to make people feel a lot less charismatic. You're going to make people feel a lot less attractive. You're going to make people feel a lot less confident when you're no longer laughing at their stupid jokes. When you act as that ultimate mirror, other people are going to see their beauty or their horridness through you because they're seeing themselves. Excuse the noise. So the people who operate within love, with an unconditional life, they're going to love you. They're going to love your energy, love it. They're living in a state of security. Your shine doesn't make them feel less worthy, less beautiful, no. They'll pay credit where it's due. They'll love you for having the courage to operate within authenticity. And they love that you are that light. You make them shine brighter. You amplify them. And they understand that. But for the snakes and for the serpents, You're going to be a flashlight exposing all of their shadows, all of their manipulation, all of their deception, all of their fucking treachery, all of their incompetence, all of their abuse, all of their bullying, all of their harassment, all of their horrific demonic selves. They will hate and they will despise you, just as they crucify the perfect man, the ultimate mirror, right? For doing nothing except operating in unconditional love. So how do you know that you're on the right path? When you are getting criticism, condemnation, judgment, legality battles, imprisonment, banishment, hatred from other people. You're operating with an unconditional love. But I promise if you walk that narrow path, it could end up with you being martyred. It could end up, with you losing your job, rejection from a relationship. I don't know. It will be the stepping stone for you to walk into your dream life. You will be thanking the very people that had you in tears. Noise. It's all food for thought. But if I'm going to be an advocate of anything, it's going to be an advocate for you to walk the narrow path, the one that nobody walks, because it's on the other side of that journey where you really realize your potential. And if we can all operate within that lens of having the courage to rip the fucking 1,000 layers of saran wrap off, the 1,000 masks, the 1,000 contours, the 1,000 shrinkages of ourselves, right? The thousandth dimming of our lights. And we could just shine as our brightest, most confident, most self-loved, most self-respected selves. You will plant that seed of belief within others. You'll give off that frequency, that vibration, to give others the courage to walk in their truth, to make their own journey home. By seeing your courage, it'll plant a seed of possibility, of belief, of courageousness within them to embark on that same journey. Okay? That's law number 44, 48 Laws of Power. My name is Tarek Haux. Escape the rat life. This is Rat Life University for YouTube. It starts with belief and the courage to pursue. And we are all gonna make it. I'll check with you guys in the next one.